This all blends together, so let's not stay on track. Slam. You slowly look up like this, and you say this. You just f***ed up.
Welcome back to The Walkthrough, where we walk you through this week's trending topics in real estate. I am your co-host, moderator, and captain of BAM, Dan Oneil, coming to you live from Long Island, New York. And after maybe the most insane episode in the history of the show, we are bouncing back this week with a value-packed episode with a star-studded cast. Joining me, as always, my co-host, the author, Mr. Eric, the broke agent, Simon. Eric, how are you? And can we give a shout out here to Diane?
Yes, shout out to my mother who watches all these episodes. Mom, if you're watching this, throw us a quick like, get that engagement going. And this is what we call a rebound episode. It's like when you lose game one at home, like the Celtics, you know they're going to blow out the Heat on Friday. That's what this is. This is a rebound episode. Let's go.
Yes. Also on today's show, we have two highly requested returning guests. First, the CEO, the content creator of all content creators, the founder of my favorite platform, Coffee and Contracts. I've been a member for 3 years. Been watching that just pulled out of my bank account every month. Miss Haley Ingram. Haley, how you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
It is our pleasure. And I mean that sincerely. And also backed by popular demand, we had to pay this guy $250,000 just to come on the show and block an hour off for us. The hot take machine, the sales giant, Mr. Andrew Undum. Andrew, how are you, buddy?
Well, look, I don't get out of bed for less than $250,000, so that's the bare minimum. And Haley, I don't know if you knew this. I said I'd only come back if you were going to be the co-host with us today. So thank you for joining.
Yes.
Oh, wow. Really?
That's part of the deal now.
Now that we have our
sweet.
pleasantries out of the way, this is already a different episode. The vibes are good. Let's have a show here today. This week we're talking realtor safety, talking about how to create a podcast people actually listen to, consumers' expectation versus reality, and much, much more. Make sure to go like and subscribe. Let's get to it. Shout out to Diane, Eric's mother. We will not let you down on this episode, Mrs. Simon. Topic number 1, danger ahead. Multiple MLSs are considering agent alert or alerts for perilous properties. I had to Google that word. I'm not going to lie. This article is from Inman and will be in the show notes. But to summarize, at the National Association of Realtors mid-year conference, of which I was supposed to attend, but I had a golf mastermind, a committee on realtor safety suggested adding MLS data fields to signal hazards such as bad cell phone service and limited visibility. Inconsistent cell service, limited visibility from the road, vacant, no lighting. Here are some of the potential safety hazards an agent may encounter at a for sale property. But currently, there's no standard or there's no way to alert agents about them. It is the sad truth that realtors are victims of crimes on a daily basis in the United States. Some of these proposed changes are, number 1, if the home is vacant, this would be marked on MLS. If there is no heat, if there's minimal or no exterior or interior lighting, if it is in a remote location or limited visibility from the road, or if it has inconsistent cell phone service and if the electricity is not on. I will be the first to admit that sometimes realtor safety classes are grueling and incredibly boring, but I do think that these proposed changes are smart and should be implemented. I can't count how many times. I really can't count how many times I've walked down a staircase thinking that was going to be my last step, because the seller is walking behind me and we're going into a pitch black basement and I can't fight to save my life. And I don't carry a knife, mace, nothing. So I couldn't imagine being a female. We don't even on my team let female agents go on their own showings. Like if it's at nighttime or kind of a particular or weird buyer. Somebody in my market just made headlines yesterday for harassing women. So my point being, this could also have an effect on home values if these are marked on MLS. Andrew, you probably have your green belt in Taekwondo. Have you ever been scared on an appointment? Do you have any SOPs for these kinds of showings, maybe some female agents on your team? How do you feel about these proposed changes?
You need to have a layer of common sense here. Common sense, unfortunately, seems to be uncommon these days. I don't like the over-regulation aspect of how let's make a bunch of litigious oversight on this thing. Market vacant, market this, market that. If I don't think the public should know if it's vacant. Maybe it's even more likely second order consequences for that house to be ransacked and mobbed. Look, it's just you got to have common sense. I have been scared one time. I don't want to monopolize this with this crazy story, but I had the most incredible thing happen. A guy pulled up, different name, wasn't his name. I said, "Are you Eric?" I think, no, it's my son. He's not coming. Unmarked car, sweatpants, ratty T-shirt, no license plate, and he's jacked. Now, look, you mentioned I had green belt. I was a varsity wrestler. I wrestled my whole life. So, like, and I have a good judge of character. I know there's types of people, like, you look at him, and you're like, if I punch this guy in the face, he ain't going down. Well, this guy, I was like, this guy could hold me down. He was jacked, and he started like rubbing trees outside, talking about conifers and shit. So, like, immediately, I'm like, this isn't good. A whole bunch of weird things happened. I literally ran out of the house, got my car, and left. But he found a big flashlight, put it in his pants, pretended it was his genitals, was making jokes like this. Weird house. And he kept saying, let's go into the basement. I'm not kidding. This freaked me out.
Headlock? Would you call up your varsity?
No, I walked outside.
What'd you do? Oh.
He was saying weird things like, this is where you clean the bodies. I'm telling you, it's like freaky stuff. Broad daylight. So I just walked out of the house. I said, I'm going to look at the roof. And then I just kind of ran away.
When you say he was rubbing trees, what do you mean by that? Like with his
before
hands,
he walked
or
into
he
the
was
house,
like pelvic thrusting the trees?
He was just touching. He's like, this must be a conifer. And he was just weird. Like, it's weird. But anyway, I think we all have these things happen, and you got to be careful with this topic because safety is very important. And like, I love everyone on my team. You have 20 agents. I think, like, if my wife or mom or sister was an agent, like, you would be really concerned. I feel like we're not as concerned about ourselves as men sometimes. You're like, look, I'm going to handle it.
Haley could put up a better fight than I could. You're kidding me? Haley would strangle somebody with those biceps. My little puny arms, I'm as good as dead. But Andrew, I agree with you in the sense of, like, maybe if you put it that it's vacant, like, it could get ransacked, robbed, all the above. But you don't think that there could be some way to implement this that could help for our safety? Like, if there is no, like, listen, there's no worse feeling than being on a showing at 8 o'clock at night. You're on off some beaten path. There's no lights. You have no cell phone service. And now you're walking into a basement that is pitch black. And again,
look, you have to operate on your own volition. The government, the MLS, the board of realtors, the state government, the county government, they can't do it for you. This is something you have to do for yourself. So I just like, look, you can make a law about it, I guess. I don't think that's going to change anything systemically.
This is first off not consumer facing, so the public will not see that it's vacant. It's just these 8 fields, and it's just agent to agent. It's been implemented in only 8 or I think like 5 MLSs in Des Moines and Arkansas, and only 8% of the properties have actually added in these new fields. So in terms of the public seeing that a property is vacant or not, they're not, because it's just agent to agent. I don't think it's that litigious to just add 8 of these things in here. What does
litigious mean? Let's just pretend as if I'm
like
a listener.
Like people who want to bring the law in.
Andrew was insinuating that it's a whole hoopla, a whole
look, 8% of the
whole thing to like just make a couple check marks in the MLS.
We can't even get listing agents to put the right bed and bath count in, determine what a bedroom is. They don't know what egress is. We don't even know how to calculate square footage, taxable living area, unfinished basement. Look, I'm all about safety. I'm all about safety. I'm not going to rely on the MLS's rules to make me feel safe, regardless of the fields.
Yeah, that's true. I feel like they're just kind of like doing things to help try to do something, even though like you could already look up an address and see if you know the area that you're not going to have cell service or it's in the middle of nowhere.
How do you know if you're gonna, like, I never have cell phone service. Like, how do I know? Right? Like, I have Sprint. Maybe I should upgrade that. But
yeah. Well, I mean, if you live in like a town where there's like houses to show in the middle of nowhere, then you're probably like, oh yeah, that's out in the forest. I'm not going to have any service, or this is just sketchy. I'm not going to go alone. But yeah, I mean, it's good. I mean, it's better than nothing.
Andrew, do you have any like implementations for your team, or any rules for the females on your team to not go show houses alone at certain times or in certain areas?
Yeah, he just calls his varsity wrestling coach, goes with him.
Me?
No,
either.
Oh, I mean, I don't have a team that goes to show houses.
Or when you were an agent.
Oh, yeah, no, nobody really did. It was a kind of fend for yourself kind of thing. I mean,
yeah.
Well, look, you already have the showing time. You schedule the showing. The world kind of knows that you're going, because you have to schedule the showing. So there's a lot of these things. And going back to this litigious point, because this is where it becomes a problem. Hey, now if you don't fill out these 8 fields and you don't have cell phone service, then you're going to get a fine. And it's one of these things that just unravels, and somebody gets in front of a local board or someone that has some bureaucratic authority and they start imposing rules on us that are maybe in good intentions, but look, we're not judging our intentions. We're judging on these results. And if you're going to start putting more cramping everyone's style on it, I think it's a bad move. Now, look, I do believe there's a way to make it safer. I'm just saying that it's not going to come from the MLS.
You're saying that an agent could get in trouble, say they forget to check the box at the cell phone service or something like that, and then the other agent gets in trouble and complains, and then maybe there's some lawsuit.
You said there was heat on here. Now you're getting a fine. You said this was vacant. Well, it was, but now it's not. Oh, but that it is. It's trying to solve it's a solution in search for a problem that I'm not sure. Safety is a problem. I don't care what your industry is. I don't care what planet you're on. You got to look out for yourself. You have what's called your own agency. You're in control of yourself. So if you're concerned, by all means, by any means necessary, make yourself feel safe. Don't count on a rule to make you feel safe. People run red lights too. People run red lights.
I run too many of those. You actually kind of just changed my opinion on this. I'm not gonna lie, because you are right. They are gonna find you out the wazoo, and then you have to also think too. Like if I go there and I don't have cell phone service, just because I have Cricket Mobile, that doesn't mean that you might not, right? Or vice versa. Or maybe I have cell phone service, but that's kind of subjective, right? It's like T-Mobile, and like now we're relying. I don't even know what litigious means. Now you're relying on me to tell you what cell phone service provider has service where. Like I already get fined thousands of dollars a month from my MLS just for putting the word open house in my listing. I can't even imagine. And NAR due just went up $5 too, which I'm pissed about. You and I should have been there, Andrew. We should have been on the front lines.
It's a personal thing. It's a personal thing that people need to do personally with their teams. Even if they're a team of one, you need to take care of yourself and don't rely on the government or the MLS or the board or your office to take care of you. It's just the world we live in. In this country that I'm from, that's how we do it. You take care of yourself.
Litigious is the word of the day. All right, listen, comment below if you've had any scary run-ins. I have some good stories, but I don't want to chew up too much time here. And maybe what we can do to protect ourselves, or what you do, and if you have any SOPs in place for this specific topic as well. All right, on to topic numero dos. Ready? I'm looking at Eric and Eric only. Give me a head.
Yes, I'm ready. Let's do it.
All right, let's do it. Number 2, how to create a podcast people actually listen to. This is from Tom's story through BAM. It will be linked in the show notes. I love this because I have started 18 podcasts, so I can definitely learn something from this myself. That's really why I do the show. I just learn. That's really why I'm here. Tom's details. He details out some of his very impressive podcast number and his tips to build an engaging, consistent audience. Tom laid out his 5 keys, and they are: number 1, to know your audience; number 2, to stream both audio and video; number 3, be consistent; number 4, partner with a co-host; and number 5, let your guests do the heavy lifting. Starting a podcast is objectively the best way to meet someone. It's the best way to make connections. People love to brag about themselves. They love to share their story. They like to inspire, to motivate, all of the above. If you're listening or watching right now, pause this. Go start a podcast. Do it right. Do it right now.
I don't know if we want that. We just
do it right now.
A bunch of realtors starting podcasts.
Diane, if you're listening, do it right now, start a podcast. Eric, as somebody who has multiple shows, you are an award-winning podcaster. The number 1 podcast in Turks and Caicos. Thanks for coming. Keep the change. Suffice to say that you know a thing or two about the podcast game. And while it's so difficult and daunting, how important is it to stay consistent?
I mean, that's everything. If you have a podcast and you run it for 5 weeks and you're doing it every other week and you don't have a co-host to keep you accountable, your podcast dies. I mean, you had, like you said, the Dan Oneil show. It was on, it was off, it was on, it was off. You had me as a guest. I was the coach. Like there were so many different things going on. You have to have it in your schedule every single week.
That show sucked.
Horrible.
Were you ever on that show, Andrew?
I'll get you.
I declined. Available, not interested. Let's keep going.
I'd pay him $350. You doesn't even get out of bed for less than $250. You kidding me?
I think having the co-host is so important if you're going to start one, because it really just takes a lot off your shoulders and it holds you accountable. And something Tom's story said that was really important too is having different roles for the co-host. Like Dan, for this show, it's like we each kind of go over the notes. Sometimes you drop them in the Excel sheet. Sometimes I do. If we had straighter roles, I think like this podcast would even run a lot smoother. But Andrew, I know you just started a podcast. So what are some of the pain points that you've experienced? What?
I have a chirping, Andrew. Let me, I'm going to, ready? Andrew, you recently started a podcast, I believe. In fact, you had Eric on. Let me finish. Eric, you had Eric on about a week ago. If de facto, You told me you only did them in person. So must have caught a stray bullet on that one, huh, buddy?
Well, if you're going to start a podcast, you have to have creative, intelligent, and savvy ways to get people who want to be guests, not guests. So that's another little tactic. That could have been number 6 on Story's article. But Dan, you will be a guest. But look, Eric's got 9 running, including this one. 9. So we talked about it on the podcast. He got 9 shows. And look, all I've ever done, I got a lot to learn there, but I just wanted to create content that I want to have conversations that I just want to have anyway. And I film them. I think the co-host thing, for me personally, that's like, I don't even want another personality in the room if I want to ask the questions and get my points across. That's just.
So finishing my what I had written out for you here was that now that you are interviewing some of the top professionals in the industry, like listeners aside, you're probably not even doing this for the audience. You're probably doing this to learn. How much has it helped you and your business and just your overall knowledge of like sales and business, having the podcast?
Well, it's really has been phenomenal. And I was telling Eric, like, I've only interviewed people that are like really tremendous. And you will be on there, and so will Haley, because you guys are awesome at what you do. And that's just is what it is. You guys are performing at such a high level that you have something to say. Most people don't have anything to say. And so I pull out these stories, but I've interviewed a lot of the top people. Sirhant was a guest. My partner I wrote this book with, CEO of Realtor.com. These guys have crazy stories. And what's cool is after you do a podcast with someone, you're friends now. It's almost like playing around to golf. Unless you really botch it, like Barstool. Those fucks. You're friends. So now, like, I can call them, you text them, you follow up. And what you guys are kind of magicians at is taking long form content. And then that's like, if I could only do one thing, I'd probably only do long form content, because from the long form, you can chop it up, make the fun reels, make the posts, do the blog post, engage that other guest's audience. And it's just fun. I just find it to be flat out fun.
Yeah. Haley,
go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, I don't believe you have a podcast yet.
But you guys are convincing me. I don't know.
Go start it right now. But you do a ton of live videos. You do live content. You do so much in the Coffee and Contract Facebook group that it kind of like serves as one. I mean, I know you guys do the monthly calls as well. What were your takeaways from this article, and maybe what is like, why haven't you started a podcast?
I haven't started one. It's kind of like in the article, like you said, like, I just don't have the time. I don't know. I really like creating content visually, like with our graphics and our carousel posts and like writing and kind of staying behind the scenes most of the time. So, but I do, I don't know. I think I would like it because I've been going on to more podcasts like this and then doing the live calls in the Facebook group. And like you said, it's a great way to meet people and just to have like the conversations that you're gonna have anyways. Why not record them and then cut them up for tons of content, post them. Other people can get benefit out of the conversation. So I don't know. I might have a podcast after this.
I love it.
It makes you a better
speaker for you guys.
Yeah, you should. Host it on BAM. It makes you a better speaker too. And really like trains your brain to come up with questions, because there's a lot of dead air in podcasts. Especially if you have 2 hosts, you're kind of internalizing about yourself, worried, am I saying enough? Am I being funny? Am I interrupting the guest? And then you're also worried about the co-host. Is the co-host saying too much? Or, how's the chemistry between all 3 of us? Like Matt and I do the Overask podcast, and I think we've hit a good stride now, but there's definitely times at the beginning where, I'm kind of thinking inside myself, like, all right, I haven't said anything in 10 minutes here. I got to think of something to say, but is it going to interrupt the flow of the conversation? So there's so many things going on in your head that it really just like creates and turns you into a better conversationalist. So highly recommend at least trying to do one, especially from the content perspective. Like Andrew said, your long form breaks down into short form. The more long form you do, the more people trust you. The reason the Broke Agent brand like actually started acquiring legitimacy in 2019, 2020 is because I was doing long form. When it's just short form reels and memes and stuff like that, and nobody ever heard me talk or understood that I actually knew what I was talking about from a marketing perspective, then that's really what provided this brand a lot more legitimacy. So highly recommend doing one, but if you're not going to be consistent with it, don't even bother starting, because then it just looks pathetic, right? Like if you just throw up a podcast, you do it once every 3 weeks. I'm not just pointing at you, Dan. There's a million people that have done this where it's just like, hey, here's my podcast. And then you look and they haven't posted in 15 weeks. And then you're like, what happened? Like it does just kind of, put them into a negative light, I think.
Well, I thought about doing like a mini series, or like saying like, we're going to do 12 episodes on this topic. And then so that secretly, so I have an out. So it's like, okay, I said that I like, I don't want to do this podcast forever. But then if you decide you like it, then you can just say, we decided to keep this going for, however
Exactly.
long.
Just brilliant.
Seasons.
Just to
Doing
write it down.
seasons. Yeah, doing seasons is a really, really good idea. So Byron's going to do that with his Byron Lazine podcast because he has so many too. He's on the Hot Sheet. He's on Knowledge Brokers. He's on the Real Word. He used to be on this podcast. So you eventually, you're in too many different directions. But if you say, I'm only doing this thing for 12 weeks, then you could bulk record and really focus on each episode as opposed to scrambling each week to try to find guests, which is difficult, especially in the real estate space. Like once you've done 100, 200 episodes, who the hell else can you talk to?
Oh, there's 1.1 million other agents that you could potentially call.
But it's just, you can't just talk to random agents. Like Andrew said, you want to talk to people that can provide value. You're not just going to talk to some guy who sold one house like me. Go ahead, Andrew.
You can't try to be, I think everyone's interested in creating podcasts. Everyone's like, oh yeah, I should do that. Like that's what people are thinking. I could do that. I should do that. Maybe I would be interested in doing that. Look, you can only do it if you're going to commit to it and really want to do it. And you have to like the business of running it too. Cause it's not just, hey, you don't just get to pop on and talk to somebody. You got to prep. You have to have the equipment. You have to have your video guys there. You have to have your audio right. Then once you capture that content, okay, where does that go? Now I have this 80 gigabyte file and I got to put that on YouTube and LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram and chop it up and everything. It is a real business, obviously for some people, but it is so good for agents. People see Byron and guys like you, Eric, like, oh yeah, they have no freaking idea how much time, effort, energy, and money and premeditated, well thought out process went into this before anybody says anything into that microphone. Yeah. So it's like what our friend Tom Ferry would always say. Most people are interested, not many people are committed. Yeah. So that'd just be my caution. If you're going to do it, really get committed. And there's so many people in this ecosystem. And I'm sure that like, I'm in BAMX now. I can't wait for that community to start growing. So people will help you. And anytime I've ever asked anyone for help, they've always helped me. Yep. I was asked to help start a podcast. I'm asking Eric for help on this Mighty Networks thing. And they'll help you. But if you want better answers in life, you have to ask better questions from believable people. And just side note, believability, weighted decision-making. I've said it before on this thing. Find 3 people who you know more than you about this. Undoubtedly, Dan, Haley, and Eric know a lot more than me about most things, including Instagram, Facebook, content, posting, clicks. Well, I should just ask them and take their advice.
Yeah. Love it. Dan Oneil show version 1.02. I don't even know which season it was. It was probably like 5 years ago. I didn't even really do it for like listeners. I was just doing it to try to pump my own tires and like meet other people that would otherwise tell me to kick rocks and get lost. And I would just do a 45-minute interview on Zoom. And it was the worst produced thing in the entire world. You could still probably find that on YouTube, but it's cool to kind of like also go back and watch those and see where I was at, like mentally, what I was saying, my thoughts. I had Eric on. I said Eric Stickle. Like now, 3 or 4 years later, like he's one of my best friends. So it's cool to go back on that too. And it's just the relationships that you make. Like you said, it's like playing a round of golf or getting a beer or a martini, whatever.
I think what Haley's. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say I've also been Eric. You've been on this too. I was on a podcast that literally never aired, and it was just strictly a 45-minute podcast, and they just did it for the last 2 minutes. They said, "Hey, so you want to join EXP?"
Yeah. I was on that exact podcast, and mine I think actually aired, but I know exactly what you're talking about. It was basically just a smoke screen, a recruiting point. But Haley, what you do kind of is a podcast. So you do, and I do them with you, is these monthly lives into the coffee and contracts community. If you're a realtor listening to this, you don't have to start a podcast, get a logo, upload it to Audible, Spotify, Apple, all that stuff. If you're part of a Facebook group or you have a community, just go live in that community for an hour and actually answer questions. It strengthens that community more than anything because you're actually interacting with them live. The podcast, you could do live podcasts and interact with the people on YouTube commenting, of course, but that's like, you need a big audience for that to actually work. But your members of that community are just so much more strengthened and they believe in you so much more the more communication you do with them. So I think it's a podcast in itself.
Yeah, that's true. I thought before we should just record it and pop it onto Spotify.
Exactly. Yeah.
But
so, and then one more point from Tom's story is he says, if you're an agent going to start a podcast, do one for consumers because it's just so much more broad. The agent listenership is so small, right? How many licensed agents are there, Andrew? 1.6 million?
A lot. Yeah.
Something like that. Like, to even get a percentage of that audience compared to the consumer when you're talking about the actual market or stuff locally, I think that's a better route if you actually are doing this to get business.
You know, that's the one thing you brought up there, Eric, which is such a good point, is what is a podcast? You're like, hey, you actually are doing a podcast. Podcast, I think, and fact check me on this, didn't Apple create that, iPod, this, that, and they just kind of had that streaming service and they just called it a podcast. We made up a podcast. What is a podcast? We're talking about podcast. Is this even a podcast? It's just a word that we use to make long form content. Haley, you're doing it. So that's the other thing. The question is, should you start a podcast? Maybe, maybe not. But should you create long form content? Absolutely. And don't get worried about, is it a podcast? Is it on Spotify? Is it on Apple? Is it on a Facebook group? Is it a live? Hey, go out there and have interesting conversations. And if you think you can help people and solve problems, I think you're doing a great thing. And don't get worried about what you're calling it.
Yeah.
If you say podcast one more time. Oh, all right. Listen, drop us a like here. Drop us some of your favorite podcasts so we could all tune in. I love to see other people's podcasts and consume them.
I think I'm going to start a podcast. I'm convinced.
Yeah.
Guilty is charged with the podcasts. Okay. Everyone should create one.
If you say something too many times, you probably know what this word is, Andrew, in your vast vocabulary here, Hartford grad. When you look at a word or say it too many times, you're like, is that how you spell it? Is that even a word?
That doesn't happen to me. No.
All right. Classic.
Never happened to me.
I don't have the vernacular that you do. Okay, Andrew. On to topic. Put that one in your vocab, buddy. All right. Topic number 3. Moving on here.
Vernacular.
Andrew, since we paid you $350,000 to come on the show, could you do the face really fast? Give the viewers something to.
Oh, well, let's go back to safety for a second. This might actually help somebody.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Anytime anyone's ever, you have to have a strategy for getting people out of your open house. Okay. You're sitting in the open house. People will come into that open house, and look, you're judging them, whatever. It's called thin slicing. Everybody does it. We don't have to pretend like we're like superhuman. We're judging people all the time. People walk in and you don't want them to be there. They're going to mess up your vibe. It's just not the right scene. They're
rubbing trees.
It's just, they could be rubbing trees, talk about conifers. They might be trying to get you on a podcast. Either way, you got to use your gut judgment. So when I see someone walk into an open house, you have to have a face like this prepared. So I don't know if you're watching this, because this might be an audio only podcast, unless you listen to Tom's story and make it audio and visual. Anytime I see someone come in, what I'll do, and I know I don't want them to be there for long, I'll slam the door behind them. Okay. This is important. Bang. And I do this face and I go,
oh my God.
See, this is key. No, guys, this all blends together. So let's stay on track. Slam. You slowly look up like this. And you say this. You just fucked up. Hold it. Okay, you're holding it now. You say the basement's unfinished. Would you like to see it? They won't stay long. So if someone's making you scared, I'll double down and make them scared. You see, This is black belt stuff. This is black belt stuff. Like you just fucked up.
You look like Pennywise when you do that. That is the fact that you can contort your face like that is.
We call that
absolutely psychotic.
Devil lips.
I can kind of do a version of that.
Let's see it.
Do it.
I love it. You can do it. Look at the cheekbones.
Yeah.
I want more cheek flare though. You got to work on that. Harder, upper, high, more teeth. Anyway.
All right.
Have you guys seen the movie Smile?
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Have you actually seen it, Andrew?
Oh, actually, yeah. The scary movie. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Yeah, where everybody's smiling. It's one of the scariest movies I've ever seen.
It's actually, really
Not a big scary movie person.
Oh yeah, the ending with the house and her mother. Yeah, I did see that movie. All right, moving on. Continuing that movie.
Just go straight to the ending.
Yeah, go right. I was going to blow it for everybody. All right. Anyway, topic number 3, Andrew. That was electric. Welcome to the Thunderdome, my friend. Topic number 3: consumers, housing market perceptions versus reality. This is from Sarah and the BAM staff. A great read. Recent data from a new open door survey. It appears that they do a survey each and every single week, shedding light on how buyers and sellers see the housing market, with what their top concerns are and what they can agree on. Pausing briefly from the article, it is so important to know this data and to study up on it so you can further articulate it and have confidence when articulating to your clients. And even more so, be confident when speaking and set the right expectations from day one. The biggest mistake that I see with my team and just people I talk to is they're not having the confidence to set the proper expectations with their clients. Then you get in trouble. So back to the article. 3 things that buyers and sellers agree on. Open Door survey shows that buyers and sellers agree on these three things in particular. Number one being that they both believe that the market is competitive, mainly due to low inventory. Number two is that both are concerned about interest rates. And number three, both think homes are overpriced. Bit interesting for sellers to say that, but moving on. Top housing market concerns for both buyers and sellers. They all agreed. The top three were rates, housing affordability, and a weak economy. These were their biggest concerns. So use this article, use the visuals, the data, all of it. Have it at your disposal to show your clients the advantages and disadvantages, depending on each prospect's unique situation of selling or buying a home right now in their local market, and clear up any misconceptions from these confusing headlines. Andrew, how are you and your team properly setting expectations with clients right now using data and fact instead of opinion?
Hey, look, I just got to tell you, saying, oh, people think they do agree that the market's competitive and that the rates are high and they're concerned. It's like, yeah, the sky's blue. It's so blatantly obvious. So I'm not sure how to take that.
I didn't write the article.
Well, no, it's a fair article, but it's like almost so obvious, maybe because we're in the space and we see it. From a consumer's perspective, it's fine. But for an agent, no one's concerned about that. We've been talking about inventory, interest rates, and inflation for 3 years now. But Dan, what you said is the most important thing. It's confidence, because anyone who's more certain in any interaction will influence the other person. Certainty comes from confidence. Preparation will lead to confidence. So you should know these things. And what the crazy thing is, people don't even have to believe what you're saying. They have to believe that you believe what you're saying. You see? So if you can own this type of data, and look, I watch the hot sheet. I don't know when I started, because Byron's such a freak and he's so good at it. And he does it every day. He's like the most disciplined man on his TB12 workout. These guys probably measuring everything, like the PSI on his urine. Like, this guy is dialed in. And because I know he's so dialed in, I know he takes that so seriously. So I listen to what he says, and I'm almost always in agreement with him because it's straight facts, and he's a student. I take that, and then I can say that so confidently that I can influence the buyers. But at the end of the day, all we're trying to do is give people what they want, right? And we just help them discover what's actually going on. So yeah, you just got to let people know. And the biggest mistake before you do that is to really understand what this person wants. And you can't think you know what they want. Mm-hmm. Big mistake.
Yeah.
You don't know. You don't know what they want. And you don't know how to solve their problems. And by the way, it's not even your job to solve their problems. They'll solve their own problems. People will always fight with you, but they'll never argue with themselves. So
there's the quip right there.
I don't think Andrew read the article, is what I did from this.
Well, the article was earth shattering. It was earth shattering. It said, hey, people think the market's competitive and the rates are high. Oh, geez. I didn't know that was going on. Thank God I read that. I might be able to talk about that to a client.
Eric, as somebody who was just approved,
I got nothing on this article.
Well, listen, well, you do, because you were just approved by the Bank of Hogwarts with your tiny interest rate. That's a callback to last week's diabolical.
It's actually the Bank of Hogwarts is actually Gringotts. Fun fact right there. And this is a Harry Potter reference, Andrew. I know you hate these. I know you hate science fiction, even though I said you should have these in your joke repertoire: Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, and Star Wars.
No, I like this. I like Voldemort. There's a couple good words there.
All right,
but I want to hear Haley's take from someone who creates content on what's
I
going
wanted to
on
hear I wanted to hear Eric's sentiment as a home buyer right now, regardless.
We need to buy something now. So the rates jumping up and down by 0.5 percentage point, it doesn't really mean anything to us, basically. And we've been in this apartment for 3 years. I'm a buyer who has to move. I'm going to move. So I know that, in the next 30, 40 years, the next 5 years, this house is going to be worth more than it is when I bought it for anyway. So that's all I care about.
I got to say one thing before we go to Haley. I got to say one more thing, because I didn't answer your question. I went on some tangent, but it might be a good micro clip for you from your podcast. Setting expectations is the most important thing, and you have to gather all the information on what this person's agenda is before you impart your agenda on theirs. But here's the key thing here. What I think a lot of agents don't do and could do a better job of is really explaining the cast of characters involved in a transaction, all of which are stakeholders, whether it be lender, appraiser, title company, home inspector, well, septic, termite, escrow, the list. If you really explain that cast of characters to a buyer, and you can explain, hey, our ability to effectively manage this ecosystem can either help your equity position or diminish it based on what these professionals do. My job is to not only handle that, but let you know what's going on in the greater world that's impacting us all. That's a good lead into it, because you're trying to educate them, and say, look, this is what we're going to get into. Like, this is not just shopping for houses. That's fun. And we can talk about purchase price and closing cost and contingencies, settlement date, deposit, offer stuff. That's fun. But let's talk about all these people. And that's when you bring in, well, here's what's going on in the environment right now. And it's all third-party data. So I actually would use that and say, hey, I'm not even sure if you've heard this, but I just read a survey. Here's consumers are feeling these 3 things. Is that true for you? It's a great conversation starter. So I'm not knocking I think the article is great, but as like an agent, you're like, oh yeah, thanks for telling me. So I just want to throw that in there because I don't want to bash the author of that article because it was a good article.
Yeah, shout out to Sarah. Haley, how can we use social to like further educate our clients? Like, how can agents position this content to be published and educate the consumers that are reading these mumbo jumbo headlines, like the Bank of Hogwarts and Eric's take?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would just focus on it's always, I don't know, it's kind of difficult, but I like coming from the standpoint of just talking about what they're doing with their clients at the moment. And like people are still buying and selling, like there's always headlines. Like I've seen some posts where they're showing headlines that saying like that the housing market's going to crash every single year for the past like 10 years. There's been a headline like that. Oh, yeah. So I think just like everyone's situation is different. Like Eric needs to buy a house. I just bought a house when every time I told someone I'm buying a house, they were like, I'm not buying a house right now because the interest rates are crazy or because this. And I'm like, I don't care. I know that I'm going to hold on to it for a while. My situation, it works. And
you're in St. Pete, the house is going to be worth $200,000.
Yeah, I already it appraised. I already had equity in it once I got it. And everybody was saying, oh, I'm not buying, even though my rent was going up, like my rent like went up 50%. But so I just say, just keep staying on top of the market, of course, and saying like, yeah, if it doesn't work for your situation, it doesn't work. But if it does, then yeah, real estate's always going to go up.
I think a good point too is, and Eric kind of told me this last week, like sometimes I could be a little bit of a people pleaser and maybe more specifically so to my clients. And I actually truly believe it, right? So I just had an instance where I told the seller that I thought I could get them X, which was a really, really high number because I've worked with them in the past. And that could have I did believe it, but it could have been me also appeasing them because maybe they said it first, right? I still got them an incredible number, $75,000 over asking, but like the bet was 90,000. So I think like I kind of didn't set that expectation from the start the right way properly. They're not mad. They're actually I'm mad. If anything, they're very happy, but I really should have told them, 650, right? 675. So I think that's also sometimes maybe like a problem that I have is like, I should just use this data here instead of just trying to, oh, you said 690? Yes, we can get 690. And then, right, I don't set that expectation right off the bat. So that's a problem that I have for sure that I know I need to work on, but setting the expectation right off the bat is huge. And then social media too, posting it out there. For everyone.
I got some to add. Can I add a dimension to that? Because look, scared money doesn't make money, for one. And two, you have whatever the crowd's doing, the masses are doing. When you're not going with the crowd, that's when you might have some asymmetric return. A little bit of risk, a lot of reward. So like Haley buying that property when everyone else says, this is a bad idea. Those are the type of people who get the big wins. Unless you want to be stuck in the middle. If you want to be average, you can just do what everyone else tells you to do, what your parents tell you to do. But Dan, you just had an interesting point. Every agent has that situation where you have to pick a price for a listing. And that's a very intimate moment with a home seller. Now, one of the things I've been doing, I learned this from Mark Stark, who's an absolute legend. He never picked a price. He goes, in any environment, particularly in this low inventory environment, you should never pick a price. Anyone who picks a price, because look, if you guys were at one of your awesome BAM, say you're at the Tom Ferry BAM event, the only reason half the people go to the Tom Ferry events is for the BAM Bash. That's why I would go for the BAM Bash. If you're at the BAM Bash full of all these top agents and you ask them, hey, were you guys surprised how high a home sold recently? Every hand would go up. You want to know why? Because they don't know the price. You don't know the price, Dan. Haley, you don't know the price. We don't know the price. The appraisers don't know the price. They just justify it. The lenders don't know the price. No one knows the price because the market determines the price. So I'm not going to pick a price. Now, Andrew, you have to put a number in the listing. Yeah, of course, we're going to have a strategic launching price, but I have no idea what the final sales price is going to be. So we can talk about a strategic launching price, but I don't know how high I can get it. Okay. I don't know the price, but I know the freaking process to maximize your equity. That is how you can position it. And anyone who comes in, if someone came in here and gave you a price, ooh, I wouldn't do that.
Strategic launching point. I love that.
Yeah, that
have you ever lost a listing in your life?
I did once to see how it felt. You know, that's from Dan Oneil's Instagram, most interesting man in the world, which I've been trying to copy, but I'm not as creative as Dan.
Love that. You know what's interesting, Andrew? And maybe for all of you guys, the person that I was in competition with for this listing, they had gone in there on a 45-minute listing presentation, and they just basically kind of said why they shouldn't go with me. I'm not around. I'm busy. I'm this. I'm that. They didn't actually say why they or how they could help sell the home. They just spent their entire listing appointment saying why I'm not around and all those things. And they also did have you ever seen this? I don't know if this exists in your guys' market, a price range, like let's say for 425 to 475.
Yeah, why put a lid on it? I don't know how high I can get it.
I've never seen that. So the seller wasn't a fan, and I was able to get the listing. But great point. I appreciate you watching my videos. Maybe I can come on your podcast sometime.
Hey, you did a great live and explained that story. Final thing. This is a key point. You only have access to people through their concerns. Remember, Dan, I was telling you this yesterday. Mm-hmm. That's the only way you can access people. What they care about, not what you care about, is what they're concerned about. So people are concerned about everything in that article, which is why it's a good article. And there's surveys on it. You only access people through their concerns. And you know what every homeowner in the United States has in common? They don't have the same sports views, political views, religious views, Trump, Biden, whatever, but they all want their property value to go up. Interesting. So if you can play to these things where you can access people through their concerns, you're going to be a lot better off. And addressing some of their concerns is great, leveraging articles like that, but I also wouldn't put it on them unless they bring it up first. Hey, just curious, are you concerned about how little houses there are and how much competition there is? Because if you're not, everyone else is freaking the fuck out. Oh, that's great. Now I'm not buying anything. So you got to be careful with that stuff.
Well, now that YouTube's going to suppress the hell out of this video, you just said two names, you just F word. They're going to look at your face when you go.
Guys, this is the walkthrough. Look, this is the walkthrough. If you want something politically right, go watch Over Ask or, the hot sheet. Look, you're here for hot takes here. Let's keep going.
All right, listen. Well, speaking of the best party in real estate, and speaking of taking your skills to the next level, we have in the Bank Bash, Eric. We have a little surprise.
We have an exclusive announcement here on the walkthrough. If you are an agent and you want to become a better agent, which of course you do, you have to check out our new platform, BAM X, for literally just $10 a month, which is absolutely nothing. You get a course every month from BAM creators. We have my Instagram course, which is taught by me. You have Tom Toole's objection course, a caption course, a green screen course coming. You have Byron's course. It's an absolute no-brainer. We also have on-demand education courses like Haley here, the Mastering Canva Design. We have Tom Story's video course. So use code walkthrough for 10% off. We have a thriving community, 10% off, WALKTHRU. There's a link down in the description. Become a member of BAMX right now. It'll be the best decision you ever made as an agent.
I can't believe you're offering a discount for $10. For
10% off the annual. So
well, listen, it's like they got to give you a little taste. They got to be a little. It's like a drug. They got to be a little sip of the booze, get you in, and they hammer you with Tom Toole's objection handling course, and now you're spending $25.
If you want to learn from the objection handling goat, we got the Tom Toole objection handling course in there. It's unbelievable. And Haley's Mastering Canva Design. This is an hour course of how she implements everything she's done on Canva, from Instagram highlights to carousel posts to Instagram reel templates to everything. It's unbelievable. Right, Haley?
If you're not in that community for $10, I'd argue you don't have two brain cells to rub together to get in this stuff, or just get out of the business. Like, that's kind of crazy to me, because Tom Toole is so good. You know how much money he spent learning how to handle those objections, and you can see him do it live, and he's such a freaking beast. And for $10, he'll just give you exactly how he does it, why he does it, when he does it, down the line. Coffee for Contracts has been this prolific Instagram Canva thing. Coffee, yeah. What is it? Coffee and Contracts.
Coffee and Contracts.
Yeah, and for, sorry, Eric. Yeah. I just think that's incredible value. I'm not getting paid to say that. Obviously, I got nothing to gain from it, but I'm just like, dude, I'll buy it for everyone on my team. Okay, it's $200 a month. Maybe they might sell something.
We need an Andrew Undum podcast course in there also. I think
you know what I've been doing? I've been listening. Like I read that babies, if you put on like Beethoven or Mozart while they're sleeping, that they become smarter, more educated, they're more intelligent. Studies show, open door. So what I've been doing is I've been going to sleep to Tom Toole's objection handling course every single night, just letting it sit on my ear. And I wake up and I go, "What did you say about low interest rates?" And I just bam, 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 I got it done.
I want Andrew to do a course on getting listings. Like I want to see what you do in a
100%.
listing appointment. And then I want to create a coffee and contracts listing presentation that's created by your principles of like what you would do.
Look, I got the best listing presentation. I just gave a talk at Boomtown, and this was the name of it. Turn your listing presentation into a customized home marketing proposal, because no one wants a listing presentation. I've said this on
Let
here.
me write that down.
Customized marketing proposal. Why are we call it a listing? Hey, Dan, when you list a home, do you think you do more than list the home? It doesn't even have representational value. Listing agent. What is a listing? Listing. It's like we're dragging the term through the industry for 200 years. At least buyer's agency says, yeah, I'm representing the buyer. What's a listing agent? I don't even know what that means. It's stupid. Anyway, that could be a course.
See, that's why we need to do this. Change the game.
You need Alan Dalton. Alan Dalton. Write it down. Alan Dalton. He's the guy who taught me all this stuff, and he's so much infinitely better than me at it. But he's not a present day practitioner, so I can sprinkle some. I get a couple of thimbles of some spice on it that your audience.
Andrew, do you do like mouth exercises in the morning? Like the way that you just articulate and the way that you speak is like, I would believe anything you said, truly. Like if you told me that, like,
I'm certain in my wrongness. See, that's the thing. Even when I'm wrong, I'm certain.
I'm not even sure if I'm a listing agent after what you just said.
You're not.
I'm not, clearly.
No, I don't even want to sell my house, but I think you could come here and I would say, okay.
He just sells your own house back to you at a higher value.
I get accused. I get accused.
Sounds like a good idea. I don't know.
You out.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna be like, we're gonna counter you, and you're gonna take it.
If you do that face during a listing presentation, they're signing immediately.
Right away.
Calling the cops.
Yeah. I gotta say this. I get accused of this. Just like Dan was a little accusatory. And do you practice this stuff? Do I do like mouth? No, of course I don't. And I'm telling you, this happens all the time. Even my siblings will be like, dude, you like practice this shit in front of a mirror. I don't, but I will say this, that I'm kind of psychotic. Like we all probably are. I hear these things in my, like you're always talking to yourself. There's a famous book called What Do You Say When You Talk to Yourself?
How many different people are in your head, Andrew? 5? Because I got 3.
No, it's just whatever. But I'm always probably practicing these things subconsciously. Like not even, like when you have to go give a presentation, you prep a little bit. But like you don't prep for this type of thing.
But I'm always saying to myself, I'm saying you're going to snap hook this out of bounds. You're going to snap hook this out of bounds. You're going to chunk it. You're going to chunk it. You're going to pull slice it all over the place. You're going to miss this putt. You're going to lip out. You're going to shoot a 98. You're going to embarrass yourself.
You got to read the book. You got to read the book. There's a couple of these scratch guys gave me, because I'm a head case too on the golf course. Probably not as bad as you, Eric. That's a good one, the 5 lessons, but it's called Zen Golf.
Yeah.
And it's freaking awesome.
I'm not a big reading type of guy,
Can you read?
More of a, of course I can read. I went to a top 22 university here. Highly educated.
Shout out to Diane. All right, moving on. We are hitting the 49-minute mark. We need to hit our topic, our marketing topic. Yeah. Topic number 4 this week in social, Eric.
Yeah, we've been highlighting the marketer of the week. I think we got through 3 of them. We'll try to find more. Comment someone if you think they're doing something cool on social.
Send us a podcast.
Steven Diaz, the rapper, he was supposed to be on Overask this week. Now he's taking like a private jet to the Nuggets-Lakers game. He thinks he's Drake right now. So hopefully he reschedules and gets on our podcast. But this is in social media today. Very important article. Haley and I took note of this. Every Monday through Thursday, this is the best time to post on Facebook. Monday through Thursday, it is documented. They had statisticians research this. Maybe this is an open door study as well. You should post from 8 to 1 every Monday through Thursday. That is the best time to post. They said Fridays suck for posting. That has certainly been the case for me. I always try to keep my best content between Monday through Thursday, 8 a.m. to 1. Instagram, same thing, except a little bit later. They said 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. to 1 to 2 p.m. Those are the best times to post, and to also avoid Fridays and to avoid the weekends if you're actually trying to sell something. Then
science.
This is a Jason Pantana / Brock 11 Johnson little tip here. Don't post your shit at the top of the hour. If you post something at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock, that's when everybody's scheduling their content. Everyone thinks like, all right, I got to send this at 10. I got to post this at 11. But then Instagram or Facebook is becoming so oversaturated with all the content being pumped out. So schedule it for 10, 11, 10, 16, a different time, and then your content will get more exposure. Haley, do you purposefully post at different times, or have you noticed engagement at different times being better or worse?
I'm so bad at this. I don't know.
You're bad.
My take on the whole like timing is like, I just think it's overcomplicated a lot. I think for me, I know like what works, and Fridays do suck. I feel like people kind of log off at a certain hour and go to like happy hour, dinner, whatever. So try to post earlier on Fridays if I end up posting. I just try to post like around when people are going to lunch, and I typically only post on weekdays. I just take the weekends off. But I don't know. I feel like just experiment around with your audience, and from there. It's hard to say based on like these reports that come out. But I mean, a lot of it's true. Like weekdays around like morning, not too early. That's time when people are active, of course.
You could always check your insights and see when your audience is most active. You could do this on Instagram and Facebook and try to post around those times. Don't pay too much attention to this. It's not that big of a deal. But if you have a really important piece of content, don't launch it at 5 o'clock on a Friday. Don't launch it on a Saturday, and probably don't launch it on a Sunday. Even though you're probably competing with a little bit less on the weekends, it might be a good time to throw a little flash sale in there for BAMX, walk through 10% off. But I would stick between Monday through Thursday from 9 to 2. And then interesting enough, they said TikTok, best time to post is between 2 p.m. and 6, which actually made sense to me because once you get home from work, you're just sitting on the couch, you're scrolling through TikTok. That's way different. Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook seem to be more like business publishing, right? You're posting links, you're posting actionable stuff. TikTok is kind of more entertainment based.
That is true. That's how my day goes. It's like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok at night, get crazy.
Exactly.
David, who's my editor, my video guy, he's TikTok famous because he just draws people's names. It's like the most insane thing in the world. He said that his time to post is 10 p.m. Like if you post any time before that, you're dead in the water. 10 p.m. is his number. That's strategic.
Yeah.
Hey, Eric, that was the most valuable thing that we said on the show. And this came up before, and I think I was like poo-pooing it. Like, hey, if your content's good, people watch it. I don't know how to post content. All right. But I'm learning now, and I finally got my process down where I'm posting something every day now, like a reel that we put on Shorts and LinkedIn. So what I've realized is you can't manage people. People are tough to manage, but you can manage your system. And if you're going to systemize this and you're going to actually try to be a content creator, you can manage that system. And that what Eric just went over those. I wrote them, every single one of them down. Monday to Thursday, 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. IG, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., 1 to 2 p.m. Not at the top of the hour. Great pro tip. And then, of course, you have the insights in TikTok's a little different. Those types of things, that's infallible data. That's black and white. That's not how do people feel qualitatively about the market. That anyone can argue that. Any guy like me can just be like, that's stupid, and here's why. But you can't argue with the ones and zeros. And
Correct.
That's what you just got. So I'd encourage you to write it down. Guys, look up here. Write it down. Systemize it. Because you can't manage yourself or your people or your videographer that well, but you can manage the freaking process.
That's true. That's a good point.
Oh, my dog's barking. All right.
I just want to add one more point to this. Like, people do poo-poo this type of stuff. Like, it sounds so surface level to be like, oh, don't
I think
post
I just
these.
did kind of.
Yeah. No, just like a lot of people, whenever I do these tips on Instagram or something, everyone's kind of like, all right, we get it. The quality of the content is what matters the most, just like what Andrew said. But if you're spending this enormous amount of time filming this stuff, you want to position the content in a way where people are actually going to engage. If you post something at 10 p.m. that took you 5 hours to film this incredible listing video, and you paid editors and everything, and you have no idea how you're going to publish it, no one's going to see the video. I was talking to Andrew about this a couple of days ago on his podcast, where it could be frustrating when we spend an hour doing this podcast and doing prep, but if the thumbnail sucks and the title sucks and the description sucks, nobody's going to watch it. And then you're basically just publishing something to nobody. So it's really important to actually listen to what we're saying in terms of, all right, I'm not going to post this thing at 2 a.m. on a Saturday when nobody's up, because you need that initial engagement boost. If no one engages your content right off the bat, no one's going to watch it ever.
Yeah.
You're right. I take it back. I take back everything I said.
Yeah. So exactly.
I would pay Eric literally. I'd pay him easily $200-300 a month just to audit my shit.
$200 or $300 a month.
Buddy, what do you think this guy gets out of?
Are you out of your mind?
For 10 minutes
Pay me
to
$2,000
go
or
through my
$3,000 maybe for an hour
I'm
at
going
a
back
time.
to
Or
BAM.
you know what you could do? You could just pay $10 a month for BAMX.
That's what I was
Link in
saying.
the description. Use
Wow.
code
No, but like
walkthrough.
for 10 minutes of your time, not an hour, not a coaching session. You can be my daddy for a little bit. I'm not doing that. I'm saying, hey, look, can you just look at all this stuff and tell me what I could have been doing better? Because you see it. This is your life.
That's what we do in Coffee and Contracts in the
Exactly.
Facebook group.
Haley and I we just did audits, and it's all
Yeah.
about that, because you could just see, like, it's also about the way you position the caption. If you want to get more engagement out of a caption, don't just write your listing description. Ask a question at the beginning of the caption saying, hey, what's your favorite feature of this room? Get people commenting. And then put that in the story also, like tell them to click on that post. So there's just so much that you could do to each post to increase engagement on it.
Yeah,
Like,
I
we're all
listened to
so
Eric
guilty of
do
this.
20 audits, 15 audits when we were in Naples, and every single one of those audits, I took something away. Like if you go look at my highlights right now, Eric, they're all uniform and they have all been changed. And now I'm trying to be more strategic about it, because I used to just kind of let it rip. Right? If my video team got the video to me at 4 o'clock, I would call Eric, be like, "Hey, is this funny?" He would probably say, "Yeah, it's better than 90% of content."
Which
Now I'm
means not
nervous.
funny.
Yeah, which means it's not funny. So then I post it, it does terrible, and then I archive it right away. Whereas I really should be more strategic with my captions, with my posts, with my highlights, all these things, so that way it does better and not just grip it and rip it.
Dude, there's nothing worse than when I post something sometimes and Eric gives me a snide comment. Like, was it snowing? Like you said,
You
like,
had
I
a
had a
crazy filter on that,
I didn't
that it
even
was
know
like
it
the
was
middle
on.
of December.
He's like, what is it, snowing? And I like panicked. I'm like, oh fuck.
How could you? What do you mean you didn't know it was on? You
I
published
just
the
didn't.
video.
I'm driving, bro.
Yeah, I know, but you published the video and clearly like watched it back.
I
That's what I don't understand when
I
people say
swear
something
to
like
God,
that.
I
It's
don't
just
even
like,
watch them
I didn't
back.
know the audio was at 100. How am I supposed to know? It's
When
like,
I do those, when I do those green
who's
screens,
doing this?
I swear to God, I don't even watch them back. Like when I go to these stores, I just post because like fuck, like whatever.
Okay,
Like,
well, there's your problem right there.
That's a problem.
If you're publishing content and then just leaving and
You're
not
posting
and
and driving at the same time.
Yeah,
Well, I
you're
was.
posting, ghosting, and driving. You're posting, piecing,
and then I look back, and then there, like 4 of these green screen things. I thought I was being so smart, listening to all the cool people, do it right, green screen videos, and it's snowing in everyone.
Right.
And I'm like,
Yeah,
what is happening?
It's like a winter wonderland. It's the middle of May
And
here.
it's
I
like-
mean, if you're trend jacking, that's one thing, but this is one more thing. Final thing.
Yeah.
Coffee and
We're
contracts.
now into this, by the way.
It's
What?
a rebound episode. It's a rebound.
Yeah, it's a
Keep
rebound
going.
episode. We're saying important things here. The Coffee and Contracts Instagram, in terms of social help, one of the best in the game. So follow the Coffee and Contracts Instagram right now. They have insane carousel posts, nonstop value. Basically, every like feed post is like a huge blog post. So follow that.
Yeah, I put my soul into each of those. So
You
Haley,
can tell
it's so
too.
pretty.
Like those posts probably take you an hour and a half to craft, plus the captions, plus everything.
it's
that
all
goes
me
into it.
procrastinating doing something else. So I
Right.
spend
You're
hours.
hitting the gym. But it's funny because I could tell like exactly from looking at someone's profile, like who's you, like I'll be like, wow, it's a really nice looking, like aesthetically pleasing profile. And then I, put 2 and 2 together. I'm like, I look it up. Yep, it's Haley, Coffee and Contracts.
It's the goal.
And there'll be a link for Coffee and Contracts in the description
Yes.
too. Best template platform in the
Agreed.
game.
And then we have one more. We have the walkthrough. We have the walkthrough promo code for BAMX. Andrew Undham is going to be doing a podcast on it if you're still watching here. And I think that's it, right? Rebound episode. How did we do? Good. Final thoughts? Andrew, do you have a quip it? If you were like a pastor, you were a pastor, people would go to like their sermons and they're like, ah, like they're like, ah, like.
I don't like that analogy. I don't like it. Not because not only am I not religious, I'm anti-religious.
Oh, Jesus.
Right,
All right.
Oh God, I'm just kidding. Oh, here we go. That's why I didn't like safety. He's a devil.
Andrew said that I am the litigious person, Andrew, in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit.
All I do is look, I love coming on here, and it always bums me out when you ask me and I'm not planned enough. Then I have to say no, but I'm super glad I could come today, hang out with Haley. I'm pumped for BAMX just to get all that stuff for $10. And mark my words, here's what I'll do. And I'm gonna use the promo code for all of it. All of my agents, these 25 agents, that's gonna be the little gift.
Ooh, I
say,
love
look,
that. Get them
say,
all
hey,
on
look,
BAMX.
Because when they ask me questions, and look, clearly, as you guys just, I don't know what I'm talking about with the posting and Instagram and Coffee and Contracts and this and that. Hey, but I paid this for you. So if you're interested in this, don't wait for me to help you. I can't even help you.
Here's
But
the
I'll
difference also with BAMX. Sorry to interrupt you.
No,
we're not just talking about it. Like Haley's mastering Canva design, it's her clicking around Canva and actually showing you what to do. When I'm talking on the Instagram course and I'm saying, here's where you're positioning your captions, I'm not saying, hey, put them in the bottom left corner. It's me actually physically doing it, being like, this is where you put the caption. This is how you plug the link. This is how you do this. So that's the difference between this and any other course out there, I'd say.
Like if you look at Coffee and Contracts Instagram, you want your Instagram to look like that? $10 a month. She'll show you everything she does.
Well,
Your guy,
yeah.
The
That's
guy's
a
got
different-
500,000. You want to?
Everything's $10 a month. You want
Everything's
to learn from us?
10.
It's $10 a
Everything's
month.
10. Everything's
Yeah.
10. And you can negotiate, guys. You don't
I
get.
literally live at your house for a week and run your Instagram for $10 a month.
Oh, I just like that Andrew will pay me $200 a month to have.
Well, I know
very
that's big
serious
for you. I
conversations.
know that's big for
300.
you, Eric. Yeah, that's big for Eric.
300.
This
He
guy's
doesn't-
buying
he-
a house.
The guy doesn't own a car. Look, it's big for him. Look, someone told me that. I think Dan.
The poor
You
guy.
on the bus? Are you fucking kidding me?
I got a car too.
You know, I heard that too. It's the word around. It's the word
People
on
are
these
talking
streets.
about that.
Oh,
We're
you're
talking about
Everybody
that in the
Aggressive.
streets of St. Pete right now.
Yeah, you hear Eric doesn't have a car.
Look, you're not going to get what you
There's
deserve. You're
multiple
not
people
going to
tell
get.
me that.
You don't get what you deserve. You don't get what you negotiate. You get what you tolerate. Okay.
Right,
So make
right.
the decision. What decision do you need to make? I'm telling you, you need to get better at all that stuff that's in BAM X. So
Right.
let's. I mean, go on.
All right.
Thank you, Rabbi Undum. We appreciate it.
All right, that's it for the walkthrough. We'll see you guys next week. Thank you for an incredible episode. Rebound, baby. Let's go. Lakers.
Let's go.